The veil pin caught in my hair. Camille leaned closer, her fingers working gently to free it, her perfume filling the small space between us. "Breathe," she whispered, her voice soft and soothing. "You're going to be absolutely perfect out there." Through the doorway, I could see Evan standing near the altar, adjusting his tie for the third time. His shoulders were tense. He wouldn't look in my direction. Hadn't looked at me properly in weeks, actually. In the back corner of the room, Marco, my audio-visual tech, flashed one blue light from his equipment case. Our prearranged signal. Everything was ready. The presentation was loaded. The timing was set. I tapped my bouquet twice against my hip. Acknowledgement received. The processional music started, swelling through the speakers, then cut out for half a second, like someone had caught their breath mid-gasp. A technical glitch, most people would think. But I knew better. My heart slammed against my ribs, so hard I thought everyone could see it through my dress. But my face stayed perfectly calm. I'd practiced this smile for 3 months straight. The smile that said absolutely nothing was wrong. Camille squeezed my hand one more time. "Ready." "Ready," I said. The lie tasted bitter. But I was ready, just not for what she thought. The music swelled again, stronger this time, and the doors opened wide. 200 guests turned in their seats to watch me walk toward a man who'd been lying to me for 8 months. This was the moment I'd promised myself. The moment I'd been planning in secret. The moment everything would finally change. My pulse thundered in my ears like a drum, but my expression didn't crack even slightly. I let everyone in that room see exactly what they expected. A calm, happy bride walking toward her future. Inside, though, I repeated the words I'd been practicing every single day for weeks. Let them reveal themselves. Don't break. Don't cry. Don't give them the satisfaction. I wouldn't scream. Wouldn't collapse. Wouldn't give anyone the drama they might secretly be hoping for. I walked down that aisle with my head held high, my steps carefully measured, my bouquet steady in my hands despite the trembling in my arms. Evan finally looked at me when I was halfway down the aisle. His smile was confident, almost relieved. Like he'd been genuinely worried I might have figured things out and called everything off. Too late for worry now. Too late for a lot of things. I reached the altar and took my place beside him. The priest smiled warmly at both of us and opened his leather-bound ceremony book. "Before we begin with the traditional vows," he announced to the crowd, "the bride and groom have prepared some personal words to share with each other and with all of you." Evan's face flickered with confusion for just a second. We definitely hadn't discussed writing personal vows. That hadn't been part of the plan he knew about. But it was part of mine. I glanced over at Marco. He nodded once, barely visible to anyone else. Everything was in place. Every piece exactly where it needed to be. The trap was set. I lifted my eyes slowly to the crowd of faces watching us so intently. Family members, friends from college, co-workers, distant relatives, people who genuinely thought they were here to celebrate love and commitment. The title I'd been carrying in my chest for 3 solid months finally landed like a suit of armor around my heart, protecting me. He cheated on me with my best friend. So I sent their text to everyone at the wedding. This was it. This was the moment. The moment I stopped being the fool who didn't know what was happening behind her back. The moment I became the woman who knew absolutely everything and had chosen her response with careful, deliberate precision. My fingers brushed against the small switch sewn carefully under the bouquet ribbon. Hidden, completely invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. I'd sewn it there myself 2 weeks ago, sitting at my kitchen table at midnight, my hands steady despite everything. One press, and Marco would start the presentation I'd spent weeks preparing. Evan reached for my hand, trying to look romantic. His palm was sweaty against mine. "You look so beautiful," he whispered, loud enough for the front row to hear. I smiled at him. Soft, genuine looking. The last real smile he would ever receive from me. Then I pressed the hidden switch. "My name is Sutton Lampard. I'm 29 years old, and I've been a professional wedding planner for the past 6 years. I know lighting plots like the back of my hand. Sound cues, seating arrangements, vendor coordination, timeline management. I know how to make even a problematic situation look like perfect love if you stage it correctly. This wedding was supposed to be mine. My day. My celebration. The venue contract was in my name, signed with my personal credit card as backup. My business reputation was directly on the line. Every single deposit had come from my savings account, not from the joint account Evan and I shared. I wasn't just the bride walking down this aisle in a white dress. I was the producer, the director, the person who controlled every single detail of this entire event, including what was about to happen next. 3 months ago, at 2 a.m, I saw a text message on Evan's phone that was supposed to have been deleted immediately. That was when everything changed for me. When I stopped planning a wedding and started planning something else entirely. Something much more important than flowers and cake. I started planning the truth. It was exactly midnight when his phone buzzed on our kitchen counter. I was getting a glass of water, unable to sleep. Wedding stress, I'd thought at the time. Normal bride anxiety about all the details. The preview message lit up the screen in the dark kitchen. Still thinking about the elevator. My stomach dropped like I'd fallen off a cliff. I picked up the phone carefully. He hadn't set up a passcode yet. Hadn't started actively hiding things from me. Not carefully enough, anyway. I scrolled up through the conversation. The messages went back months and months. Things sent while I was at work late. While I was visiting my sister in another state. While I was sleeping right beside him in our bed. The name at the top of the screen made my hands start shaking. Camille. My best friend since our sophomore year of college. My maid of honor. The person I'd trusted with every secret, every fear, every hope and dream I'd ever had. I started taking screenshots. My hands trembled badly, but I forced them steady enough. 47 screenshots in total, documenting everything. Then I heard footsteps coming down the hallway. Evan appeared in the doorway, squinting at the kitchen light, his hair messy from sleep. "What are you doing up?" he asked, his voice rough. I held up his phone casually. "Just checking the time." Couldn't sleep. He walked over slowly and kissed my forehead like everything was normal. "You're being paranoid again about wedding stuff. Come back to bed. Everything's fine." He took his phone from my hand and shuffled back to the bedroom. I stood there alone in the dark kitchen, holding my own phone with 47 pieces of evidence safely saved to my private cloud storage. Everything was definitely not fine. But I wasn't going to tell him I knew. Not yet. The next morning over coffee, Evan told me I was ruining our relationship with constant suspicion and anxiety. "You always do this," he said, sounding frustrated and tired. "You find problems where there aren't any. You create drama out of thin air. It's exhausting." I apologized quietly. Said I'd try to be better. That same afternoon, Camille texted me detailed advice about trust in relationships. Relationships need space to breathe properly. Don't suffocate him with doubt and constant questions. He loves you so much. Just trust that. I thanked her for the wisdom and the support. Then I went to the office supply store and bought a small spiral notebook. Plain, completely unremarkable. I labeled it vendor notes in neat handwriting and kept it locked in my desk drawer at work. Inside, I started documenting absolutely everything I could verify. Every time Evan said he was working late at the office. Every time Camille canceled our plans at the last possible minute. Every small contradiction in their stories. Every suspicious detail. Every lie I could prove with timestamps or receipts or messages. I didn't argue with either of them anymore about anything. I just watched carefully, listened closely, and wrote every single thing down with dates and times. I forwarded all the screenshots to a secure email account I'd created specifically for this purpose. The subject line read simply, Project Whitfield. Then I printed hard copies on good quality paper. Clean, clear, timestamps clearly visible, phone numbers showing at the top. I put them carefully in a plain manila folder and locked it in my office filing cabinet with a key I kept on my personal keychain. Verifiable evidence. Undeniable proof that couldn't be explained away. 2 weeks later, I called Marco. He'd done audio-visual work for at least a dozen of my client weddings over the past few years. Professional, discreet, completely reliable. "I need a custom presentation created," I told him carefully, "for my own wedding. But I need you to keep it completely confidential. Just between the two of us. No one else can know." What kind of presentation are we talking about? He asked. I'll explain everything when we meet in person. Can you do it? He paused for several long seconds. Sutton, is everything okay with you? It will be soon. We met at a coffee shop 40 minutes outside the city, far from anyone we knew. I showed him the screenshots and explained exactly what I needed him to create. He didn't ask unnecessary questions, just nodded seriously and said, I'll make it perfect for you. I scheduled a cake tasting appointment and specifically asked Camille to come along with Evan and me. Your palate is so refined and sophisticated, I told her over the phone. I really need your expert opinion on flavors. She practically glowed with the compliment. Of course, anything for you. I'm honored you'd ask. At the Elegant Bakery, she chose hazelnut praline as her top recommendation. Evan laughed and agreed immediately. That sounds absolutely perfect. I tilted my head slightly, pretending to be confused. Wait, I thought you were severely allergic to hazelnut. Didn't you say that? Oh, that old thing? I guess I outgrew it somehow. Allergies change. I smiled and nodded like that made perfect sense. But just last month, he'd adamantly refused a hazelnut dessert at his mother's birthday dinner, claiming he'd have a dangerous allergic reaction. I made a quick note in my phone while pretending to text our caterer about final head count. Another contradiction. Another tiny crack in the wall of lies they'd built. Afterward, I quietly told the baker I'd changed my mind about the hazelnut, but to keep the invoice showing that flavor. I paid extra for the real cake to be a complete surprise flavor. Every detail mattered in what I was building. I started methodically separating our finances in ways Evan wouldn't immediately notice. I removed his name from my personal savings account, citing a bank policy that didn't actually exist. I froze any new additions to our joint credit cards. I made absolutely sure my apartment lease stayed solely in my name, with only my signature. I changed all my emergency contact information from Evan to my sister's family instead. I rerouted my business mail to a P.O. box instead of our shared apartment address. Every possible exit corridor needed to be completely clear. Every legal tie needed to be loose enough to cut cleanly when the inevitable moment came. Evan noticed absolutely nothing. He was too distracted. Then one Tuesday afternoon, he sent me a formal calendar invite that made my blood run cold. Prenup discussion. Urgent. My stomach twisted itself into knots, but I accepted the meeting invitation calmly. This was going to be very interesting. The prenuptial agreement arrived via his lawyer exactly 3 days later. 12 dense pages of legal conditions that essentially left me with absolutely nothing if the marriage ended for any reason. Completely lopsided. Borderline cruel. Clearly designed to pressure me into signing quickly without reading carefully or getting advice. I didn't sign anything. I told Evan I needed reasonable time to review it thoroughly with my own lawyer before making such an important decision. He got visibly frustrated with me. Why don't you trust me? This is just standard protection. Of course I trust you. But this is a serious legal document. I need to understand exactly what I'm agreeing to. My lawyer reviewed every page carefully and confirmed what I suspected. You're not married yet. You don't owe him anything. Don't sign this document under any circumstances. I didn't sign it. Meanwhile, I reached out to Reverend Hall, the kind older man who was officiating our ceremony. I'd like to add a special segment to the ceremony, I explained. A 3-minute gratitude presentation. Something meaningful before we exchange our personal vows. That sounds absolutely lovely, he said warmly. What would it include exactly? I'll have my audio-visual person coordinate all the technical details. Just a heartfelt reflection on our journey and how we got to this moment. He approved it immediately without any questions or concerns. Perfect. At the wedding rehearsal, I made a point of enthusiastically praising Camille's maid of honor speech that she'd practiced. You're going to make absolutely everyone cry, I told her, hugging her tightly. It's so beautiful and touching. She squeezed back hard. I just want you to feel completely loved and supported. I also handed Evan a neatly typed copy of vows I'd written for him, just in case you get nervous up there and forget what you wanted to say. He grinned with obvious relief. You're the absolute best. I was actually worried about memorizing everything perfectly. He thought I'd forgiven him. Thought I was completely over my paranoia phase. Absolutely perfect. That night, working alone in my home office, I printed exactly 200 copies of a single-page document. The header read in elegant font, "Promises." Below that header were carefully selected screenshots of text messages between Evan and Camille. Dates clearly visible, times marked, words that absolutely could not be misunderstood or explained away. I slipped one copy into a cream-colored envelope and placed it carefully under every single chair in the ceremony venue. On each envelope, I wrote in my best calligraphy, "Open when the bride raises her bouquet." The seating chart took me nearly 3 solid hours to finalize exactly right. Evan's parents were seated in the center row, with a perfect direct sight line to the large projection screen. Camille's family was positioned 2 rows directly behind them. All the key family members were positioned precisely where they couldn't possibly miss anything that happened. I confirmed all vendor positions multiple times with Marco. Optimal angles for the presentation. Crystal clear audio. Absolutely no blind spots anywhere. 2 days before the wedding, Evan casually suggested cutting the audio-visual segment entirely. "It'll save us time," he reasoned. "We can use those extra minutes for more dancing at the reception." I pretended to think about it, then agreed. "You're absolutely right. Let's skip it entirely." Then I immediately called Marco and moved the entire presentation into the personal vows section instead. Evan would never see it coming now. I created one final test document, a PDF file titled "Promises," containing their texts, detailed call logs, and timestamps all laid out like wedding vows. I sent it to my secure email account with the subject line, "Ceremony Final Version." Then I very deliberately left my laptop open on the kitchen table while I went to take a long shower. When I came back 20 minutes later, Evan was standing suspiciously near it. The screen was still glowing. "Working on last-minute wedding stuff?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "Just finalizing some final details and timeline adjustments." His eyes flicked quickly to the screen, calculating, but he couldn't see what was actually open from his angle. I closed the laptop gently and calmly. "Nothing you need to worry about at all." He smiled, but the expression didn't quite reach his eyes this time. Good. Let him wonder and worry. That night, Camille texted me a cheerful selfie from the bridal suite we'd be using the next day. "Girl, are you doing okay? You seem really stressed lately." I replied quickly with a heart emoji and just completely normal bride nerves. She sent back, "You've totally got this. Tomorrow's going to be absolutely perfect." I stared at that message on my screen for a very long time. Perfect. She actually thought tomorrow would be perfect. She had absolutely no idea what perfect really meant. I forwarded her text message to my evidence folder. Screenshot number 93. Then I called Marco one final time to confirm everything. At the exact moment of the bouquet raise, play the file titled "Quiet Truth." Then have the ushers deliver envelopes row by row throughout the room. "You're absolutely sure about going through with this?" he asked seriously. "I've never been more sure of anything." "Okay then. I've got you covered completely." I hung up and tried desperately to sleep. Tomorrow, absolutely everything would change forever. The night before the wedding, Evan changed his phone passcode to something new. I watched him do it while pretending to read a magazine. He thought I wasn't paying attention. He also disabled our shared photo album. Completely deleted my access. Too late, though. I already had absolutely everything I needed. He slept facing the wall that night, his back to me. I lay awake for hours, running through every possible contingency. If he somehow managed to cancel the audio-visual setup, I still had the envelopes under every chair. If he tried to sabotage the venue, the contract was legally in my name. If he tried to stop the ceremony, I had witnesses and documented evidence. Every angle was covered, every possibility planned for. At dawn, I got up quietly to make coffee. Evan's jacket was draped carelessly over the dining room chair. On the collar was a distinct smudge of lipstick. Bronze shade. Definitely not mine. I took a clear photo of it with my phone. Then I went to get ready. I hugged Evan gently before leaving for the venue that morning. "I love you," I said softly, meaning it one last time. He said it back without looking directly at me. His voice was flat, distracted. My heart broke. Cleanly. Completely. For the very last time. I'd spent 8 months loving someone who'd been systematically lying to me, grieving something that was already dead. But the grief was finally finished now. What remained was pure, cold resolve. Crystal clear. Absolutely unshakable. I left the apartment and drove to the venue alone. My sister met me there early, helping me carefully into my dress. "Are you okay?" she asked, studying my face closely. "I will be very soon." She didn't push for more information, just zipped me up and handed me my bouquet. The envelopes waited patiently under every chair like quiet landmines. Guests began arriving right on schedule. 20 minutes before the ceremony was scheduled to begin, Camille found me in the bridal suite. "Hey, can I move my speech to right before the vows?" she asked. "I think it'll have way more emotional impact that way." My stomach tightened immediately. That timing would completely block my cue, ruin everything I'd planned. I smiled warmly at her. "Absolutely. That's a great idea." Then I quickly found Reverend Hall. "Before the personal vows, can you add one line?" A moment of reflection prepared by the bride. "Of course I can. Is there a specific reason?" "Just something meaningful I want to share with everyone." He nodded kindly and adjusted his ceremony notes. Crisis averted. Timing restored perfectly. Camille walked confidently to the microphone during what should have been cocktail hour. Her hands trembled just slightly as she unfolded her carefully prepared speech. "Sutton is the sister I never had," she began, her voice thick with manufactured emotion. "She's the most loyal, trusting, beautiful person I know." The room collectively sighed. Several people dabbed at their eyes. She squeezed my hand hard. I felt her fingers shake. Guilt, maybe. Or just performance nerves. I nodded at her, blessed her performance with a calm, genuine-looking smile. Then Reverend Hall cleared his throat professionally. "And now, before we proceed to the exchange of vows, the bride has prepared a special moment of reflection." Camille's face flickered with visible confusion. This definitely wasn't in the printed program. I stood slowly, lifted my bouquet. The entire room went completely still. Paper rustled throughout the room as guests glanced down and noticed the cream envelopes tucked under their chairs. Some picked them up immediately, read the elegant instruction, then waited. Marco dimmed the overhead lights by one level. The large projection screen behind us flickered to life, not with romantic photos, not with a sweet montage of our relationship, with a text message thread header. The header read clearly, "Evan and Camille, 2:13 a.m. The first message appeared on screen. "The elevator last night. Did you remember to lock your door after?" Then Camille's response, "She'll never know. She trusts me way too much." The room went utterly silent. Absolutely silent. I didn't move at all. Didn't speak. Just stood there calmly holding my bouquet while their own words filled the screen. More messages scrolled slowly. Dates clearly visible. Times marked. Details that absolutely could not be misunderstood or explained away as anything innocent. People started opening the envelopes, reading the printed copies, comparing them to the screen. Verification. Redundancy. Undeniable truth from multiple sources. Evan lunged desperately toward the projector table. "Turn it off." Evan hissed frantically at Marco. "Turn it off right now." Marco looked directly at me, waiting for my signal. I lowered the bouquet slowly. Our previously agreed stop signal. The screen froze on one final devastating message. "You'll always be my first choice." Not her. Never her. The presentation ended. Silence crashed over the entire room like a physical wave. Evan's father stood up, his face gray. Camille's mother covered her mouth with both hands, tears streaming. Camille was crying. Real tears this time, not performance. Evan turned to me, his face twisted with panic and rage. "What did you do? What the hell did you just do?" I met his eyes calmly. I told the truth. Reverend Hall cleared his throat awkwardly. "Sutton, would you like to proceed with the ceremony?" Everyone waited, 200 people collectively holding their breath. I turned to face Reverend Hall directly. "With respect," I said clearly, my voice steady, "I decline." Then I faced the guests. My voice remained calm. "Thank you all for coming today. I know this isn't what anyone expected. The reception will remain open. The food, the music, everything that was prepared. Please stay and enjoy it. It shouldn't go to waste. I pulled the engagement ring off my finger, pulled the unsigned prenup from my bouquet pocket where I'd hidden it. I held both out to Evan. He reached for them automatically like a reflex. I stepped back before his fingers could touch mine. Goodbye, Evan. Then I turned and walked. I walked down that aisle, not as a bride, just as myself. My sister immediately fell into step beside me. She didn't ask any questions, just took my hand firmly. Behind us, chaos erupted. Voices rising. Camille sobbing loudly. Evan's mother shouting something. But I didn't turn around. I walked through the door and into a small side room the venue used for storage. My sister closed the door firmly behind us. The noise became muffled. I sat down on a metal folding chair and finally let myself breathe. Are you okay? She asked gently. I will be. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen anyone do. I shook my head. It wasn't brave. It was just necessary. Through the door, I heard music start. The string quartet, playing for the guests who remained. The caterers would serve the meal I'd carefully planned. The wedding would continue, just without the actual wedding. An hour later, someone knocked softly on the door. My sister opened it cautiously. A man in an expensive suit stood there, holding a business card. I'm Douglas Brennan. I work with Evan's company on the board. I just wanted to say that took remarkable composure. And if you're still in the event planning business, our firm is looking for someone to coordinate our annual charity gala. I took his card carefully. Thank you. I'll definitely consider it. He nodded respectfully and left. My sister raised her eyebrows. Your reputation just survived the impossible. She was absolutely right. The contracts had all been in my name. Every vendor would be paid in full. My professionalism had been unshakable, even in the worst moment of my life. I hadn't screamed, hadn't made a scene. I'd let the truth speak entirely for itself. I left through a back courtyard exit, unpinned my veil and left it draped on a wooden bench. No one chased me. No one called my phone. It stayed silent in my purse. I drove to my sister's house and changed into normal clothes. Jeans, a soft sweater, something that felt like me. The wedding dress hung in her guest closet. I'd decide what to do with it later. For now, I just sat on her couch and drank chamomile tea. What happens next? She asked. I honestly don't know, but I get to decide. That's what matters most. She hugged me tightly. I'm so proud of you. Thanks. I meant it. 3 weeks later, I got a message from Marco. The video from your wedding has been viewed 47,000 times online. People are calling you a legend. I didn't respond to that message. I wasn't interested in being a legend, or famous, or vindicated in the court of public opinion. I'd done what I needed to do, said what needed to be said. The rest was just noise. Evan sent one long email. I deleted it without reading a single word. Camille tried calling 17 times. I blocked the number. I kept their texts saved in a secure folder. Not because I wanted to look at them, but because I'd learned something crucially important. Document everything. Verify the story you're told. Protect yourself before you need protection. 2 months after the wedding that wasn't, I signed a contract to plan Douglas Brennan's company gala. It was incredibly successful. 6 months after that, I launched my own planning firm, specialized in high-end events with ironclad contracts and completely transparent pricing. Business was excellent. I didn't date, didn't feel the need to rush into anything. I had something much better, certainty in myself, trust in my own judgment, the knowledge that I could stand in front of 200 people and choose truth over comfortable silence. The lesson I carried forward wasn't about revenge. It was about worth. Know your worth. Verify the story. Never raise your voice when the truth can raise itself. And when you walk away, make sure you're walking towards something better. I did exactly that.